palpably, generally, and I'm sure other people feel the same way. When's a good time to, and who is a good kind of person to ask about doing that? Obviously, go through your old things, compare yourself to others, compare how other people solve the problem. But what other things can we work on to be getting better at what we do? Because we're not going to be able to make this every day now. Well, we're not all going to be the same.
So some of the answers to your question is in the post course. And when I say in the post course, I mean included in documentation in the post course repo, which, as I mentioned before, I'm in the process of redesigning, but the stuff is all there at the moment. And then also including the session before the careers fair tomorrow morning, where Tensaku will talk about activity that you could do in the post course. Generally, the best advice that I can give you in terms of getting better is to work on projects, usually in a pair or in a group, on stuff that you actually care about and that you want, like a thing that you really want to build. Try to focus more on shoring up skills that you've learned rather than learning new things, unless you're going for a specific job that requires those things. And above and beyond anything else, try and work on things that differentiate you from other Makers grads. And it is the doing that is where you will learn and improve. And, you know, by the way, guys, there will be a questionnaire, as I mentioned, around today and yesterday, same as before the, you know, marks out of 10 feedback thing. There will be a further questionnaire, which will be, then there will be a weekly questionnaire like feedback as you've been used to. But this particular next questionnaire that's coming out at the end of this week, please, all of you must complete. And that will include how you rate yourself in terms of, I want to keep studying, I don't want a job. Like I'm marking myself as I am continuing studying, and you go off and we will help you in all the different ways that we can to help you continue studying. Or you say, no, I'm ready for a job, or I don't want a job, I'm going to go and do my own thing, or I don't want a job, I hate this fucking software stuff, or other. And no one's ever answered other, but we leave it there anyway. But the point being is that there's a lot of support from us, particularly from the coaches as well, for your ongoing study. That's something that we've been dealing with from the very beginning is, you know, different people learn at different speeds, different people feel confident about where they are in different levels. We're very prepared for that. Someone else had their hand up. Cool. I've rather flamboyantly named this session How to Write the Best Application. Initially, I wrote How to Write the Perfect Job Application, but it didn't fit in the cell. So by character limitation, I've actually been more humble than I'd expected. Yeah, so I'm going to talk you through, you're going to help me talk you through as well. A really nice checklist, a good structure for a job application. Now, before I do that, I would like to talk to you about the way I feel about job applications. As you may remember, I consider the whole job ad, submit, cover letter and CV, do interview style of recruitment to be the equivalent of walking down the street, handing out love notes and producing a list of ex-girlfriends. So you can imagine, I don't think it's a great way of doing it, but it is the way that most people do it. An additional observation is one that I've already made, but I will repeat. It is possible to teach you to be better at getting a job without teaching you to be better at doing the job. That's one of the major disagreements I have with the whole cover letter, CV, interview, everything. The fact that I can even provide you content during this week is ridiculous. To be able to, in some way, encourage you to be better at getting a job. But that is the thing that exists. So I am going to talk about cover letter, CV, and GitHub, and how you combine those things to produce a strong job application. as ever, with this sort of stuff, this is just the way I think it should be done. And there is a good deal of reasons why you might do it differently, whether that be based on your individuality or the company that you're applying for to, or whether you go and read stuff online that tells differently and you say, actually, you know what, I want to do it that way. But this is the way that I recommend. Suggestions, please. What is a cover letter for?
Specifically address one company, then explain why you want to work for them.
Why you want to work for them, did you say? Yeah. So that's one thing, why you want to work for them. Anything else?
Why they should hire you.
Why they should hire you? Can you?
Introduction about who you are.
Okay, so why they should hire you and who you are, let's be a bit more specific about that. What is it that you're trying to communicate in the cover letter rather than any other part of the process about why they should hire you?
Personality.
Personality, yeah?
It makes it easy for them to tell that you're suited to the job. So
Doing their thinking for them, that's how I like to phrase it, yes. Anything else?
Being more specific, what you achieve.
So yeah, kind of drawing attention to things in the rest of your application that are relevant to this specific job or stuff that you want to celebrate. Absolutely. So for me, the overarching purpose of a cover letter is to make them want to hire you. Try and write a cover letter that means that they don't have to review the rest of your application. They already want to hire you by the time they've finished reading the cover letter. That's the ambition. That's obviously really unlikely that you'll be able to achieve that, but that's the thing to be striving for. The perfection, the ideal, the superlative is that they don't need to read the rest of your application. The first thing that was said was talking about yourself. The first thing that was said was talking about why you want the job. The second thing that was said was talking about why you're good for the job. It is very, very easy to fall into the trap of talking much more about yourself because that's the thing that you know more about. And also you do somewhat feel like you're trying to prove to them. And then when you're trying to prove something to people, you tend to overstate it. So just be careful, don't fall into the trap of talking about yourself too much. Don't not talk about yourself at all, because that's not a job application letter, that's just a letter. So let's see if this will fit. But this is my structure for what I think is a really good cover letter. It starts with addressing the letter to the actual person who will be reading it. And if you don't know who that is, find out. And if you can't find out, because you can find out. And if the answer that you get is, oh, there are several different people, blah, 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 then address it to the person you'll be working with or the person who you'll be reporting to, which they often mention in the job description, the person you'll be reporting to. The point being, if you ever write Sir, Madam, it automatically shows that you don't actually know enough about this company. And really, ideally, you're going to be in a position where you can write this cover letter in 20 seconds because you know so much about the company and you know so much about what they want because you've done so much research. And by research, I do not mean sitting in front of a screen. That is a small part of the research that you will do about a company, ideally. There are obviously many situations in which that isn't possible, feasible, etc. I'm just talking about the ideal situation. So you will address that letter to that actual person. In the really, really superbly ideal situation, you will be on first name terms with that person when you write the letter. But that might be ambitious. The first thing you then write about is why you think the company is amazing. Can anybody tell me why I suggest this as a way to open
So it's your keen to actually work with the company because you like their products or like you're not just
Yeah, do just shout out, by the way, don't raise your hands.
It's kind of like flattering.
I suppose.
It means you have done some research at least.
It's the combination of those two things, yeah. So, but also particularly, the smaller the company, the more likely you are that you're addressing this letter to somebody who either founded the company or has committed a significant amount of their life to it. So by you expressing how amazing their company is, you start to make them think that you're the kind of person that thinks like they do. But then also, of course, everybody wants to work with people who are enthusiastic about the work that they're doing. I mean, everybody that you want to work with wants to work with those people. Consider the extreme example, which is that you go up to the CEO and founder of a company and say, I think your company is fantastic because it does X, Y, Z, but specifically because your competitors, these 5 companies that you know who their competitors are because you've done your research, don't do it like this. And I think out of the 6 people who are doing it, you're the one who's doing it the best. And that's why I want to work for you. That's the extreme example. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about here, is that you are demonstrating a genuine understanding of what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how they're doing it. And you're being enthusiastic about those 3 things. That's why I think you should start, because somebody goes, hey, you know what? This isn't just another generic application. This isn't somebody punting for a job. This is somebody who really cares about my business and understands it. That's very valuable. If you already got them on side, you haven't even started talking about yourself yet. Because all you've done is mention their name and tell them why their business is great. Then you tell them why you're amazing using examples. Back up your claims. Now, how you tell them why you're amazing, I can give you examples, etc. But really, that's you. That's on you to work out why you're amazing and how to communicate it. Be brief, however. I would recommend when you're talking about why you're amazing, that you only talk about the things that you think they think are amazing. Because you've done your research. Now, your research might be as simple as doing a keyword frequency analysis of their job description to find out which words they use the most, and then use those words a lot. By the way, it's always a good idea to use the language that they use to advertise the job to apply to the job, roughly. Yeah, so if they say that they want, strong communication skills, good teamwork, and a passion for code, those should be the things that you're saying are amazing about yourself. As long as they're true, by the way. I don't mean in any way lie. But if those are the 3 things that they're asking you for and you say you're a good snowboarder, great, that's cool. Maybe you can organize the team snowboarding trip, but it's no reason to give you the job. Then after you've told them why you're amazing, you then be more specific about why you would be good at this particular job. So this is kind of I'm amazing because these are the sorts of things that you're looking for in an employee. I would be really great for this job because these are the sorts of things that you're looking for in this particular job. But also you can kind of bring in the segue into the final piece is that you then start talking about the 2 of you together. So in this point number 4, you can say why you're perfect for this particular job is not just about like why you're good for it, why you're a good fit, but also why you want it. Why do you want that job rather than another job? And always think about it in terms of my 2 favorite words when it comes to a job application. So what? Imagine that the person reading your application, after every single piece of information you give them, says out loud, so what? And if there isn't an answer as to why you've written that, cut it, put in something where he goes, so what? That's actually really impressive. That's actually really cool. That really fits. That's really great. So what? So at this point, you're saying, you're amazing, you're better than your competitors, or I think you're better than your competitors. I'm amazing for reasons that you have expressed are good for the company. I'm amazing for reasons that you have expressed are good for this particular role. And I want this job more than any other job in the universe that has ever existed for these reasons. And you finish with a description of how amazing the world will be once you're working together. And again, I'm using big, grand language here. I don't actually mean that you need to describe the amazing world, 2 years down the line, we will have conquered the universe. No, but it's like, it's talking about, let's say you're focusing on TDD as one of the reasons why you want to work for them. I relish the opportunity. Isn't that fantastic? So, maybe a year from now, we will be the leading Ruby shop. That sort of stuff. Like it's the fact that you're helping them achieve their objectives, but they're helping you achieve your objectives. I can't think of an example off the top of my head. Yeah.
You also said you should be humble and telling them that their business will be much better by hiring me and not someone else who programs.
Mm-hmm. So you can switch that focus more towards, because of the imbalance, you can switch the focus much more towards how much you're going to benefit. But don't make it just about your benefit or their benefit. It's supposed to be about how, by making this ideal match that you've described, how that's actually the results of what that is. And that like, for example, you might be saying something along the lines of, I want to,
or maybe delivering to a customer.
Yeah, perfect.
Whatever we could, whatever.
Perfect. And it may well be considering prior work experience that you've had, that there might be a previous client of yours that would be relevant to them, and you might mention that in your cover letter and say, I'd really like to be working with you and them in the future, that sort of stuff. Just remember that what you bring to a company is not necessarily just skills. Particularly as a Makers Academy graduate, it's usually also prior experience, prior network, and those are things that you should be talking about why you're useful to the company. If you think about it, Andy, ex-head of BA.com product, and someone can hire him for £30,000 a year. That's mental. Like the what you can add to the rest of the company beyond being a software developer is stuff that you should be talking about in your application to be a software developer. Don't obviously go into great length because you don't want to distract from the fact that you can actually do the job. But the additional things that you can bring to the company above and beyond being a junior software developer are things that you should be drawing a little bit of attention to. Obviously, depending on how relevant it is. Any questions about cover letters?
You write one.
Sorry?
You write one.
We can write one now if you want. Well, I'm going to whiz through the CV and GitHub as well. One thing I might also ask you to do generally applying for jobs with me is write a cover paragraph, which is something that when I send off, I say, these are the people who are interested. Here are their GitHub CVs. Here's their introductory paragraph that they've written specifically for you, which is about 150 words. And I recommend it roughly follows the same structure. If you would rather write a cover letter and make a bespoke CV and all that sort of stuff, tell me. I'm never going to say no to that sort of thing. But I will always assume that you're too busy or etc. and that I'll try and take the minimum off you. But if you want to give more, please do.
So length of this is 100 words.
No, that's the cover paragraph. Like a cover letter, just basically don't ever make it more than a page. It's really. But I mean, you think about maybe, there were kind of 4 sections that I gave, and the third one is kind of 2 things. So that's basically 4 paragraphs. those paragraphs shouldn't be more than 5 lines long, 3 sentences each, that sort of length. Okay, CV. Covered some of this on Monday. See you tomorrow, Chris. So I will go through this very, very quickly. Basically, the point being that your CV is supposed to draw attention to evidence that you have for the claims that you make in your cover letter. So in your cover letter, you might specifically point to pieces of evidence, but also bear in mind the fact that one of the advantages of having a GitHub CV is you can have hyperlinks, which you wouldn't be able to do necessarily with a paper CV. So that gives you the opportunity to actually link specifically to evidence. A couple of you I've mentioned, which seem to raise eyebrows as an odd possibility that they hadn't thought of, so I'll say it to everybody. You can link to specific commits in a branch, as you know, and then compare. So this is what the code looked like then. This is what the code looked like then, and compare and say, here is a demonstration of my ability to go from this state to this state. That's fine, you know, as long as you're showing evidence of what you can do. So I've also written here a summary of what I think is the value that you might be able to bring to a company. The fact that you can do the job well soon, if not immediately, that's a sort of secondary selling point of Makers Academy graduate, is that unlike other juniors, you guys have experience of doing it, delivering it, producing results, you know, producing finished, if not near finished products in short periods of time. That's really relevant, particularly to a smaller organization or a fast moving organization where they might be resistant to the idea of taking on a junior because they have, you know, they imagine that it takes 6 months before they start contributing net value. On average, the reports that we've had, Makers Academy graduates contribute net value within 3 months, which is half the time that most people expect a junior to contribute value. The second piece is that you will quickly grow, learn, improve, and so on. So lean on the fact that, look at how much I've learned in 12 weeks. Imagine how much I could learn in 12 months with you. That kind of, you know, the fact that you're not just going to deliver, but that you're going to keep delivering more and more and more because you get better and better and better. And that's something that you will get on with by yourself. You are an independent autodidact. And the third one is that you will be a good fit for the team and the company as a whole. So some companies put more emphasis on this than others. You will be putting more emphasis on it on average than most applicants. But the culture fit is hugely relevant. Of all of the people, the 9 people that I did mock interviews with, every single one of you answered the "what would you like to be doing in a year" question in the same way, which is, I would like to still be learning and working with a team that I like. I'm going to be very interested to be asking that question in 6 weeks' time and see if everyone else gives the same answer, because then that means that we've got something massively consistent happening at Makers Academy, which is really interesting. But yeah, culture fit, obviously very important. If any of you have any questions about how to identify culture fit, I will endeavor to answer them, but I can't promise anything. I've mentioned this at the beginning, but basically you use your skills and evidence of those skills, particularly pointing to parts of your GitHub. You notice that I've said this quite a lot because no one really ever does it. And it's really useful, particularly employers come back and say, so every single one of your applicants has 12 repos, and each one of those repos has the same code in it with slight variations. Some of the code is worse than others, some of the code is better than others, some of it is incomplete. I don't know what I should be looking at. You tell them, look at this, I really like this. But also, if you want to, and it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, to say, this is the worst bit of code I ever wrote, and this is why it was really bad. Probably not in a kind of cover letter CV environment, because you've not got enough space. hated it because got it all wrong. And because it shows you how you learn, how you approach problems, how you do things. At the junior level, no one, unless they're really ambitious, is looking for you to be able to do the job out of the box. So how do you think about things? Because everyone then thinks that their own way of doing things is the right way of doing things. And so they'll take you on and they'll train you up in that way of doing things. So that's CV. Based on the little bit of work that you have been doing on your CVs, I remind you, please try and get that wrapped up quickly. And this short batch of information, any questions about CVs? Do please feel free to tell me that I'm talking shit, by the way.
Should we also have a PDF version of a CV for companies that want that instead of just straight GitHub? Perhaps different.
It is useful. It is particularly useful for large companies that have HR software that cannot comprehend the idea that you might have an online CV. Please don't go and work for SAP. Just don't. SAP, they're one of the biggest software companies in the world, and they possibly make the worst software in the world. I can only describe it as monstrous back office software. It's the stuff that runs the running of a company, but for companies that have 100,000 employees, and it's horrible.
And people who are basically programmers, but they know nothing else than programming skills for SAP.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, it's horrible. No, they have very, 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 very good sales team who go and sell the idea of SAP to the CEO, and the CEO says, "Yes, we're moving to SAP," and everyone in the company goes, "Oh," because now they've got to go and learn it, and it's horrible, and it doesn't work, and nothing ever. I mean, I had a wonderful example of working with an SAP system where I needed a login. 4 months it took for 3 people to get me a login. Yeah, so yeah, don't go and work for SAP. Any questions about CV before we carry on? Next bit's quite short too.
Maybe one more question. What is the skills or things that are not actually required in the job? For example, experience in different countries.
So this is the difficulty that we have between the idea of a GitHub CV, which is essentially static, it's generic, and personalized CVs. So in a personalized CV, very much draw attention to the stuff that's relevant. In your GitHub, it's a difficult balance. So if you feel like you're applying for a job where the stuff that you've written in your GitHub CV isn't demonstrating you the best, then let me know, and I'll give you a bit of time, extra time or whatever, to produce a bespoke one. I would recommend in the process of developing your CV that you write like your 100% CV, and then you pick the bits of it that you think are the best for your generic GitHub CV. And then, so basically like you have blocks that you can take in and out, which is, skill, experience, and you can swap in and out those blocks depending on who you're applying to. Does that answer your question? Cool.
Yeah.
Should we state that in the college there was a CV that Makers Academy taught we have, because I guess not all companies know what Makers Academy is, and not all of them will believe that in 12 weeks you can learn how to code.
Yes. I don't really have an answer for you. I could give reasons one way and reasons another. My reasons to say don't mention it is one of the things we generally as a community around Makers Academy should be moving towards is the idea that people know what Makers Academy is. And you run the risk, precisely as you say, of saying, I've done this 12-week bootcamp, and people then don't take you seriously. Whereas if you say, the reason why I'm good at coding is because I went to Makers Academy, that's a slightly different message that you're saying, which is, I can do it because I learned it here, rather than I can do it because I spent 12 weeks learning it here. It's a slightly different message. On the other hand, it begins a conversation. If they like you for other reasons, then they've now got something that they can talk to you about. Say, you really learned to code in 12 weeks? My gut, I suppose, would be to say, do you want to work for the person who thinks this way or that way? And if you want to work for the person that thinks this way, then write the letter for the person who thinks that way. And that's, again, going back to the fact that there's a responsibility on both you and the employer to make sure that both you're right for them and they're right for you. And that starts in the cover letter. In fact, it starts from their point of view in the job description that they write, which is, I think are always boring and dreadful.
As of May, it won't be accurate to say that we were at Makes Academy from February to April. Would you suggest that our dates of Makes Academy are from February to present, or something else? I'm forgetting here that I started in December. You just ignore that.
I think it makes the fractional difference.
Well, if for example we say till April, gets to May, gets to June, 1 to 3 month job hunting period, is that going to be a problem to say that we haven't been doing anything?
I think it's perfectly reasonable for you to be looking for work for a couple of months. No, I would say, if you want to avoid that, then say Makers Academy, February 2015 cohort. And then it's up to them to know what that means.
Some of that, you kind of get around some of that looking. I understand the fear of looking like you haven't been doing anything for 3 months, but the whole thing of kind of cleaning your GitHub and taking on personal projects, surely that kind of helps with that, because your GitHub is the first thing I look at.
Yeah, if your commit history is solid throughout that period, that's a really good indicator of the fact that you haven't just been pissing around. That's something to really, really focus on, is keeping your streak up, making sure that you've got a nice, consistent commit history, because it's the first thing you see when you get to your profile, really. Your eye just gets drawn to it really quickly. And it's great because you look at Makers Academy grads and they've got this suddenly out of nowhere, 3 months of green. And then it's sometimes it goes 3 months of green, white. And you go, well, I'm not going to hire them because they just stopped, they just dropped off a cliff. So keep it green. Talking of GitHub, that first sentence is quite important. How do you approach problems is more important than the technical skill. However, caveat to that is, if it works and is ugly, that is very slightly better than if it doesn't work and it's pretty. Remember that all of the rules about craftsmanship only apply if your code actually delivers what it's supposed to deliver. So if you have an issue, if your code passes the tests, but you've got a problem with state, then that you're going to get marked down for that, even though you've got good encapsulation and and all your tests are passing and everything. Just small things like that of just being aware of the real basis of what it is that you're doing, which is telling a computer to achieve some objectives. And that sort of is primary over anything else, is making sure that it works and it works well. But that's the code. The READMEs, and I apologize in advance because I will badger you about this. Your READMEs are now the most important part of your GitHub. How you can describe what you did, what you learned, etc., in relation to what will, on average, be mediocre code. Not because any of you are bad, but just because you have only been doing it for 12 weeks. Regardless of how good you are after 12 weeks, you have only been doing it for 12 weeks. It's about you saying to an employer, during this 12 weeks of intensive coding bootcamp, look at how awesome I was in that situation. You're not saying, I'm a great developer after 12 weeks. You're saying, in the situation where I learned intensively coding for 12 weeks, look at how well I did that. Because that is a really good indicator for how well you'll do their job.
So it makes sense to say that you produced it in E3 as your bootcamp challenge.
Yeah, you may well say at the beginning of every repo. So having only been coding for 2 weeks.
No, and say my first ever JavaScript project.
Yeah.
And then they won't be too worried.
Yeah.
Having prototype it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I will share this document with you, by the way. In fact, if you're in the Job Hunters group, you can get it already. Speaking of which, very quickly going to cover, unless there are any questions about job application, this checklist, I will send it to you. There is another checklist for submitting tech tests, which if you haven't found it, it's deep in the dark depths of the post-course repo. It's at the end of one of the files in there. I recommend you seek it out in collaboration with the now 3 different video approaches that you have to the Tiltech test of how to start. The checklist that is recorded in the repo, in the post-course repo, is how to finish. So that's done. Yes. So, rule number 1, I don't know if there are going to be any more rules, but rule number 1 is, please keep me updated about your job hunt and what you're up to and all that other stuff, right? This is the one that matters. Job Hunters. Who isn't in that group?
How do I get onto that group?
Have you created one of these private groups, which is your first name and last name, and invited me and Ruben? That's how you do it. You create a private group in your first name and your last name.
First name
hyphen last name. And you invite me and Ruben to that group. And then that means that your name is now down the side of my Slack, which means I think about you. When you do that, I will then invite you to the private group of Job Hunters, which you will be rather not very pleased to know has 71 members at the moment. That will improve. That's very important because after the end of this week, that's the only place I'm going to be putting any information. In the Job Hunters group or in your private group, if it's specifically relevant to you. So this is where I will share the feedback form every week for how well I've been helping you to get a job. that feedback form also includes a situation where you say what you've been up to and what you plan to do, because 2 reasons. One, it's very important for me to know what you're up to, because, well, lots of reasons, but mainly the, talking to employers and they say, oh, can we speak to so-and-so? And I say, well, actually they're working on a part-time project at the moment. It might be quite difficult to get an interview with them. Would you be able to do the evening, where I can do that in 3 seconds rather than having a 2-day-long back and forth Slack conversation with you where we establish the fact that you're doing part-time work that I didn't know about. So please keep me updated about your situation in your private groups. There will also, of course, be the opportunity in those private groups for you to cry, tell me that you desperately need to come in and talk about the fact that you've been job hunting for 4 days and you feel like it's been 4 years and your brain is going to explode and you're getting depressed and all the rest of it. That's perfectly all right. In fact, encouraged, please keep in touch with us, whether it's me or Ruben or it's anyone else on the team or it's coaches or whoever, or it's your friends or it's your, other colleagues. Safe place here. Come, everyone is in basically the same boat or has met and dealt with, bless you, a lot of people in the same boat. We know how difficult it is going to be. We know specifically the things that are going to be difficult and we know how to fix them. So please remember the expertise and the support that is available here, but you have to come to us, please, to ask for it. I want to do as little pushing to you as possible, because then that means I have more time to go and find you jobs. However, the support is here. Please get it. Please come and get it. So yes, if you haven't already, create a private group. Invite me and Ruben. I will invite you to the Job Hunters group. That's where I will share all information. I apologize because most of my posts are at group. That means you will get notifications from me. Please do not think that if you have 3 notifications from me, that one of them is relevant. All 3 are relevant. All 3 are things that you need to know. Or please, I'm asking for feedback or response. I use this group a lot to get you guys to do kind of like quick polls. I might say, for example, okay, the next Wednesday workshop, we're going to do one of these 6 different sessions. Please give me your votes for the top 3 of those sessions, and we will do the ones that you vote for. So the more active you are in this group, the more my support will be tailored to you.
So Wednesday sessions, will they be recorded somehow?
Yes. However, I want to avoid the possibility of people not coming because they can watch the recorded version, because part of the reason of having the Wednesday workshops was to get people to come back into the building. So also bear in mind, there is a possibility, it's quite likely that actually it won't just be Wednesday evening, it will be the whole of Wednesday. So you can kind of drop in and out during the day, but the point is Wednesday is the day, and it might not be Wednesday, it might be Tuesday, I don't know yet. But there may well be a day where I am solely focused on working with you guys on your job stuff, which might be delivering content, it might be bringing employers in to deliver content, it might be bringing employers in to pitch to you, it might be bringing employers in to do mock interviews with you, it might be me doing mock interviews with you, and anything that you can think of that you think would be helpful. I will also be constantly consulting with you on how we can improve the service that we provide to you, particularly doing kind of discussion workshops around potential ways of changing what we do. All of this, the whole thing for me is essentially I want to share my job with you because you're the ones that really actually know what's going on. So you coming back in, as obviously I understand there are some people who have other commitments or they're moving out of London, having finished the course and all that sort of stuff. But those of you that can make it, please do hang around, stick around, contribute, because the more you are present, the more likely luck will fall in your direction. And that is one of the problems with job seeking is you could be the most qualified, most excellent person at getting a job charismatic, skilled, etc., networking all over the place, and not get a job for 4 months because you just didn't quite find the right one. The luck didn't happen. Luck does play a part in this. The more you are present here and engaging in the stuff that we provide for you and helping each other and pairing with each other on projects and supporting each other emotionally, the more you're doing that, the more luck is likely to fall in your direction. And I have scientific proof of that. Anything else? Oh, yes. So.
Sorry, did you put the link on Job Hunters, that Word document?
No, I didn't. That's because, yeah, it should be here. So in Job Hunters, you should be able to search for job application and then files, and here it is.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So this is the one you'll see, the one that's in Job Hunters. Who still isn't in Job Hunters? I haven't actually added you, have I? Where's it gone? There, yeah. So then I do invite, add. And then you get a thumbs up so that I know that I've done it. Yay. So now there are 72 people in the Job Hunters group. Yeah, general overall thing. As I mentioned at the beginning of the week, there is this awkwardness around the fact that my job is to help you get jobs as a primary, and as a secondary is to find a way of making money out of helping you get jobs. And sometimes there is the appearance of a conflict between those two things. Please be assured that that is the order in which they happen. If I can help you get a job and we don't make any money out of it, I will. If I can help you get a job and also find a way of making money out of it, then let's try and do that together. Because then you're also supporting Makers Academy's development, continuing growth, etc. If Makers Academy suddenly flops in the next 6 months, your personal brand as a Makers Academy graduate dies. That's rather a harsh way of saying, let's work together to, you know, I am, if a company says to me, I'm not going to pay the fee, but you're already interviewing with them or you're applying to them and everything, I'm not going to turn around to you and say, hey, stop, you're not allowed. No, I want you guys to get the jobs that are really amazing. And in the background as a company, we're continuing to work on how we can make more and more money out of helping you achieve your dreams. That is, apart from a few more admin-y things, the end of my bit of hiring week. Is that right? I just want to check. Is that? Yeah. So we're going to have a break. Then Spike is, yeah, sorry, we've run over a bit, Spike. Another like a 5-10 minute break or something. Then Spike is going to blow your minds. With how dreadful his talk is. And then we will have a very short wrap up after that. So yeah, let's come back at, what's that, past. Come back at past for Spike. Thank you.